like my boys?
Are you their manager?
Joseph Jackson.
Okay, so one of the most anticipated movies in recent memory just dropped. And I'm not exaggerating when I say this. The trailer alone broke records. 116 million views in 24 hours, more than any music biopic trailer in history. People lost their minds. And honestly, I get it. Because this isn't just any biopic. This is a film about the man who literally redefined what it means to be a performer. The King of Pop is finally getting his big screen story told. But here's where it gets interesting. Before you go spend your money on that IMAX ticket, there are a few things worth knowing. This movie was co-produced by the people who financially control Michael Jackson's entire legacy. And it went through some very significant changes behind the scenes. Changes that cost tens of millions of dollars and rewrote the ending completely. So the question isn't just, is this a good movie? The real question is, how much of it is actually true? Some of it, surprisingly honest. Other parts? Let's just say there are some very loud silences in this film if you know where to listen. I am breaking down 7 things the Michael movie gets right and gets wrong about the King of Pop, starting with the one thing literally nobody can argue with. Jaafar Jackson's performance. Let's start here because this is the part that genuinely shocks people. Jaafar Jackson, Michael's real-life nephew, plays his uncle in this film. And look, I went in with reasonable expectations. Family resemblance doesn't automatically mean talent. But within the first few minutes of watching him perform, something genuinely strange happens. You stop seeing Jaafar. You start seeing Michael. The walk, the voice, the way his fingers move during a performance. It doesn't feel like an impression. It feels like muscle memory passed down through blood. Critics who attended early screenings used words like unreal and off the charts. One reviewer said it felt less like watching a biopic and more like attending an actual Michael Jackson concert. And that's not hyperbole. That's multiple people independently saying the same thing. Think about what it took to pull this off. Jaafar didn't just study YouTube videos. He grew up inside a family where Michael wasn't a global icon. He was just Uncle Mike. That closeness, that intimacy, that access to the small private details nobody else would comes through on screen in a way that no outside actor could have replicated. Whatever your feelings about this movie end up being, Jaafar's performance is not up for debate. It's the real deal. But as impressive as that is, the movie's strength isn't just in its lead actor. It goes deeper than that, all the way back to Gary, Indiana, and a father with a belt in his hand. Joe Jackson. Love him or hate him. Here's something that genuinely surprised a lot of viewers. The film does not soften Joe Jackson. Not even a little. Coleman Domingo plays him, and by all accounts, it's one of the most unsettling performances in the whole movie. And the real history here is dark. Michael told Oprah Winfrey in 1993 that just being in his father's presence made him physically sick, like he would actually vomit from fear.
All right, I think that's good. All right. Yeah, did all right. It's gonna feel better when you get it right.
He described rehearsals where Joe would sit in a chair with a belt in his hand, waiting to punish any mistake. Witnesses said Joe sometimes deliberately tripped Michael, sending him crashing into instruments. And beyond the physical punishment, there was the emotional damage too. Joe would mock Michael's nose, calling it big, and Michael said in multiple interviews that those words stayed with him for the rest of his life and fed a deep dissatisfaction with his own appearance. What makes this portrayal powerful is that the film doesn't just make Joe a cartoon villain.
What? My opinion don't matter around here? Boy?
Joseph,
You gonna mind me, boy?
It shows the complexity. A man who grew up during the Great Depression and Jim Crow, who pushed his children because he genuinely believed that was the only way they'd survive. That tension between a father's twisted version of love and the real damage it caused is where this movie earns its dramatic weight. And the story of that damage doesn't stop in childhood. It follows Michael into adulthood, in one of the most overlooked turning points of his entire life. The Pepsi fire and the painkiller spiral. January 27, 1984. Michael Jackson is filming a Pepsi commercial at the Shrine Auditorium in Los Angeles. The pyrotechnics go off 4 seconds too early. His hair catches fire. He suffers 2nd and 3rd degree burns across the back of his scalp. And the surgeries to repair the damage are painful, prolonged, and brutal. Most people know about the fire. What they don't fully connect is what came after. The surgeries required painkillers, lots of them. And over time, what started as a legitimate medical treatment quietly became something much harder to walk away from. That dependency on prescription drugs, the painkillers, the sedatives, is a thread that runs in a straight line from that Pepsi stage all the way to June 25, 2009, the night he died. The film includes this. It shows the accident, the recovery, and the beginning of the spiral. And credit where it's absolutely due. This was an uncomfortable story that could have easily been cut to protect MJ's image. The fact that it made it into the final film suggests the filmmakers weren't entirely scared of the truth. It's a rare moment in the movie where things get genuinely complicated and it lands with real weight. But before we get to what the film avoids, let's give it one more win. Because when this movie decides to just let the music breathe, it is absolutely something else. The music and performances are electric. If there's one area where this film is completely undeniably, no asterisks needed extraordinary, it's the performance sequences. From the early Jackson 5 days in Gary, Indiana, all the way through Thriller and into the Bad World Tour era, these scenes are reportedly breathtaking in a way that makes you remember exactly why Michael Jackson became Michael Jackson. The Beat It recreation in particular has been mentioned by nearly every critic who's seen early screenings. One reviewer described the moment Jaafar does that first slide and the full arrangement kicks in as the point where they completely stopped analyzing and just felt it. Another said, the film works best when it stops trying to be a biography and just becomes a concert experience. Hearing Don't Stop Till You Get Enough thunder through an IMAX sound system is, by multiple accounts, a genuinely spine-tingling moment. And here's the thing, the music does something very specific in this film. It reminds you why billions of people around the world chose to keep loving this man through everything. The catalog is untouchable. The performances were historic. And this movie captures that energy in a way that feels earned, not manufactured. It's pure cinema. And for a lot of people, that will be more than enough. Okay, so look, I've been hyping this movie up for the last few minutes, and honestly, it deserves it. The performances are real, the music hits hard, and as a piece of entertainment, it genuinely delivers. But here's the thing, I can't in good conscience sit here and just be a hype man for a movie that I know left some serious stuff out. And I've been thinking about this since I first heard about all the behind-the-scenes drama. The reshoots, the legal clauses, Paris Jackson speaking out, Janet not even showing up to the premiere. Like, come on, you don't spend $50 million reshooting your ending and have MJ's own daughter call the script sugar-coated if everything was totally fine.
The film panders to a very specific section of my dad's fandom that still lives in the fantasy.
It's not real.
So let's talk about what this movie actually got wrong. And I'm not coming at this as someone who hates Michael Jackson. I'm coming at this as someone who thinks he deserves a real story, not a polished museum display. Here's just 3 things, let's get into it. The accusations, the story that got erased. This is the one that really matters, so I'm going to be completely straight with you. The original version of this film was reportedly going to open in 1993. MJ staring at his reflection as police arrived at Neverland Ranch. The accusations, the legal chaos, the perspective of a man who always maintained his innocence while the entire world turned against him, that was going to be the dramatic backbone of the movie's 3rd act. And honestly, that's a genuinely compelling cinematic story. Complex, painful, unresolved.
And take each day as it comes. Some of us like to take that crazy walk on the wild side.
That ending no longer exists. Here's what happened. Late in production, the estate's attorneys discovered that the 1993 settlement with accuser Jordan Chandler contained a legal clause, one that specifically barred Jordan from ever being depicted or mentioned in any film. When that came to light, the whole 3rd act had to be scrapped. Reshoots reportedly cost around $50 million. The film now ends with MJ backstage, about to perform on the Bad Tour. Michael's own daughter Paris publicly called the early script sugar-coated and said it contained inaccuracies. She had no involvement in the film.
I wasn't involved at all, aside from like giving feedback on the first draft.
And it's worth knowing that the Jackson estate, which stands to earn enormously from this movie's success, co-produced it. That's not a theory, that's in the credits. You get to decide what to do with that information, but you deserve to have it. And it's not just history that got edited out. So did one of the most important people in Michael's actual life. Janet Jackson is completely missing. This one genuinely catches people off guard when they find out. Janet Jackson, one of the biggest artists in pop history and one of Michael's closest siblings, does not appear in this film. Not as a character, not even as a mention in the background. She's simply been written out of her own brother's story. According to multiple reports, Janet attended a private family screening and was not happy. She and Paris were both noticeably absent from the Berlin premiere, and while the film includes Michael's other siblings throughout, Jackie, Tito, Jermaine, Marlon, LaToya, Janet is a ghost. Think about what that actually erases.
I can't remember exactly who I wound up calling back. to see how things were going, and that's when they told me he had passed.
The bad era, the victory tour, the years where MJ was navigating the pressure of becoming the biggest solo star in the world, Janet was there. She wasn't just a sibling. She was someone who understood, on a personal level, what that specific kind of impossible fame felt like, because she was living it herself. Their bond was real and documented. Cutting her out doesn't just simplify the story, it distorts it. Hollywood biopics always make these decisions, consolidating characters, compressing timelines. But when someone this significant disappears entirely, it raises a fair question. Was this a creative choice, or was it something else? Which brings us to the biggest issue of all, the one hiding in plain sight right there in the opening credits. The estate's fingerprints are all over this. Let's zoom out for a second, because this is the part that ties everything else together. The Michael Jackson estate co-produced this film. Sony Music, which paid a reported $600 million for half of MJ's music catalog, the highest price ever paid for a solo artist's song rights, has enormous financial interest in keeping his legacy as clean and profitable as possible.
Boys, good to see you again. Have y'all been learning the song we gave you?
Practicing night and day.
We'll start with Michael.
Every time this movie makes someone fall in love with Michael Jackson's music again, that catalog generates more money. That's not speculation, that's business. And biopics produced in partnership with an artist's estate have a documented pattern. Bohemian Rhapsody, Back to Black, I Wanna Dance with Somebody. All of them were criticized for smoothing over the uncomfortable parts of their subjects' lives. The Michael movie fits squarely into that tradition. The controversial accusations? Gone. His most famous sister? Gone. His own daughter called it sugar-coated. To be fair, Lionsgate and director Antoine Fuqua have pushed back on this framing. They've said the film is honest about who Michael was as a human being.
Well, this album, it's really important to me. I need the freedom to write the music and lyrics that pop into my head. To express myself creatively.
And to their credit, the Joe Jackson storyline and the Pepsi accident do show real darkness. This isn't a pure whitewash, but there's a difference between showing some darkness and showing the darkness, between a complicated portrait and a curated one. The movie is in theaters April 24th. Go see it. Jaafar alone makes it worth it. Just watch it knowing that what you're seeing is a version of the story, a beautifully made, musically extraordinary, emotionally moving version. Because the full story of Michael Jackson is still one of the most complex, unresolved, and genuinely fascinating in the history of entertainment. And no single movie, especially one with this many financial interests attached, is ever going to capture all of it. Drop in the comments. Do you think Hollywood can ever tell MJ's full story honestly? I genuinely want to know where you stand on this one.